Have you ever had someone say, I'm sorry, or sorry for everything? Somehow the expectation was that that cleared them of all wrongdoing? A weird confession, except you're not the priest. You're the person who was hurt. And now you're expected to just accept it. And the unspoken strings attached are, we don't talk about it again, or now you're holding a grudge. I think part of why it feels so heavy is bad apologies doesn't just miss the mark, it can actually reopen the wound. Now you're not dealing with the original hurt, you're dealing with the feeling unseen again. That's the part people don't talk about. A weak apology can feel like being dismissed twice. Maybe that's acknowledging you read the room and realize you messed up, but then there's the other side. How do we take accountability without being a target for revenge? Sometimes people don't want repair. Sometimes they want to hurt you back for the pain they think you caused. And instead of healing, it starts becoming punishment. Hi, it's me, Kimberly. Today, I want to talk about accountability, what it actually is and what it isn't. We often confuse accountability with acknowledgement, and sometimes people expect access to you even though you're not interested in repair, or they say they want repair when really they want control of the narrative. The question today is, can accountability and compassion exist at the same time? Before we go any further, quick note. This podcast is for reflection and conversation, not professional advice. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and listen in a way that feels supportive for you. Accountability is defined in different parts: being required or expected to justify actions or decisions, being responsible, able to be explained and understood. In practice, it means taking responsibility for behavior, actions, and impact. You can explain the why, what you thought was happening, what you misunderstood. The why cannot be used as an excuse. To be fair, a lot of people avoid accountability because it feels threatening. It can feel like, if I admit I did something wrong, does that make me a bad person? Instead of separating behavior from identity, people defend the behavior to protect their identity. Accountability actually works the opposite way. It says, I did something wrong and I am still capable of doing better. Ability sounds, I see how my behaviors impacted you. I understand that caused harm. I am going to change this moving forward. And I think it helps to actually hear the difference. Acknowledgement can sound passive. I'm sorry you feel that way. That wasn't my intention. I already said sorry. What more do you want? That's acknowledging, but acknowledging with a twist. Accountability sounds like, I see what I did and I understand why that hurt you. I interrupted you and that wasn't respectful. I dismissed your feelings and I can see how that impacted you. And then it doesn't stop there. It continues with, here's what I'm going to do differently next time. Without that part, it's just a great speech. It's just words. Accountability isn't a moment, it's a pattern. And part of that pattern is repair. Accountability doesn't stop at recognizing the harm, it continues on how you respond afterwards. Repair can look like coming back to the conversation, asking what the other person needs, listening without getting defensive, respecting boundaries even if they're uncomfortable. Sometimes repair doesn't mean things go back to normal. Rather, it means you handled the ending with honesty instead of avoidance. Compassion is sympathetic awareness of someone's suffering with a desire to alleviate it. Compassion is often confused with enabling. We care about someone's pain, understanding it, and still hold accountability. Compassion should not come at the cost of your dignity, your self respect, or your autonomy. Sometimes we care more about alleviating someone's pain than we care about reflecting on what caused it. And what I'm talking about is an adult adult relationship, not a parent child dynamic. If both people care about the relationship, both people have to reflect on themselves, not just focus on how the other person needs to change. That's where compassion comes in. It allows us to consider that someone else might be carrying baggage like divorce, miscarriage, postpartum, health issues, pregnancy, isolation, abandonment, grief, messy relationships, custody battles. We often forget what people are juggling and expect them to show up at their best anyways. And that's where we demand accountability without offering compassion. Compassion without accountability becomes enabling. It communicates that it's okay to be volatile, harmful, abusive, inconsiderate, thoughtless, because the struggle behind the behavior is being used as an excuse. And that can lead to codependency. I can't be okay unless they're okay. I have to say things in a way that keeps them comfortable. That's not compassion, that's self abandonment. With kids, we lead with understanding. Hey, you're having a hard time. Let's regulate first because they don't have the skills yet and they need to be taught. by an adult. With adults, we don't ignore behavior. We can say, I understand you're going through a lot. Yelling at me doesn't work for me. I'm not going to engage in that. If it continues, I'm going to choose distance. That's accountability and compassion. Honestly, a lot of adults were never taught how to regulate. They were told to get over it, stop crying, be quiet. Now, we have all these dysregulated adults looking for someone else to manage their emotions, but that's not our responsibility. Every adult is responsible for regulating themselves. If explaining the why is used to avoid responsibility, deflect, minimize impact, that is not accountability. That's just an oopsies. If someone says, I see that hurt you, here's what I misunderstood, and here's what I'm doing differently, that's different. Sometimes people set expectations like, I don't want any negativity. I don't do conflict. I'll ghost you instead. And then feel abandoned when people pull away. If someone is afraid to communicate honestly, that's not a relationship. That's about control, not boundaries, control. Boundaries protect connections, control limits it. I remember when I was planning my wedding, someone promised they would help, then chose a relationship over that commitment. When I expressed hurt, I was told I was the problem, that I had expectations I needed to apologize for. My past mistakes were brought up, and somehow the whole situation and my own feelings were my fault. That relationship dynamic lasted 10 years too long because they were very good at talking their way out of accountability. Their mistakes were oopsies, while mine was a character flaw. And that pattern was clear. Everyone else in their life was always the problem, even their own kids. That's when I learned pattern tells you where you stand. And how someone treats people they're upset with is how they possibly will treat you. When a mistake is out of character, acknowledgement plus a clear plan to change plus consistency is usually enough. Abuse is different. Abuse is a pattern. It breaks trust over time. And repair takes repeated accountability in those cases, not once, because you're apologizing 1,000 times because of the 1,000 cuts that led to their breaking point from abuse. And usually, when we've abused someone, the real consequences is social consequences like eruption in the relationship, loss of access, distance, breakups, no contact, loss of trust, professional consequences, legal consequences when it's extreme. Not all harm is the same. There is a difference between small, everyday mistakes like interrupting, snapping, miscommunication, and deeper harm like patterns like control and emotional abuse, and the level of accountability should match the level of impact. Treating everything the same either minimizes the real harm or amplifies small mistakes. When you are abusing someone, you do not feel it. You might feel powerful in the sense of you're trying to control the situation. Other than trying to control, you do not feel an emotion when you are implementing power. When you feel powerless, you feel that. It could be just another Tuesday for you, and it could have been traumatic for them. Abuse in adult to adult relationships on equal footing could look like this: targeting a new person in the group, isolating someone socially, constant criticism disguised as honesty, controlling how someone communicates or expresses themselves, punishing people with silence or withdrawal, gaslighting, and this has to be intentionally trying to make someone question their reality, escalating small conflicts into character attacks. If you've caused harm and you want to take accountability, it only works if the person is open to having the conversation. And if they choose to go no contact, you have to respect that because the apology is for them, not you. You don't get to force someone to accept your apology just so you feel better. At that point, it's not accountability. You're trying to self soothe. And if you're the one who was hurt, you're allowed to not accept an apology. You're allowed to need time. You're allowed to say, I hear you. I'm not ready to move forward yet. And even, I don't want to continue this relationship. Forgiveness is a choice, not an obligation. And if you're wanting to know, how can I keep myself accountable when I can't repair? It means educating yourself, having self compassion while trying to learn how to do better, setting boundaries with yourself, respecting other people's limits, not taking it personally if your apology isn't accepted, making a consistent effort to change. Rome wasn't built in a day. Sometimes an apology is more for you than them. Growth, that's for everybody. And then there are the extremes. Over apologizing. I'm the worst. I'm ruining everything. I'm such a bad person. That's not accountability either. It's another self soothing tactic because you would rather believe you're bad than accept that maybe you made a mistake. Because now the focus shifts from the impact. It's about comforting you in a mindset that you're used to. And the person who was hurt ends up taking care of your emotions. And that's not repair, that's emotional deflection. Sometimes we didn't know better. How long do we expect being naive to last? At some point, we have to ask, does ignorance become a choice to stay comfortable? So, back to the question, can accountability and compassion exist at the same time? Maybe accountability isn't about being perfect. Maybe it's about being honest enough to say, I see it now, and brave enough to follow with, I'll do better. Not once, but consistently. Compassion explains behavior, accountability addresses it. Both matter because understanding without change keeps people stuck. Change without understanding breaks connection. We need both. Thanks again for listening to my rambles. Welcome to Thinking Out Loud. I'm Kimberly. I don't have all the answers, and I'm okay with that. If this felt familiar, uncomfortable, or oddly relatable, you're probably in the right place. If you're looking for a community of people navigating balance and asking honest questions, follow along. We'll keep thinking, we'll keep growing, and we'll keep asking questions together.